Hi, Ferdaus here from New Entity. One big question I often get is why a website project can cost you anywhere between $500 to $500,000. And to illustrate my point, let me describe two very contrasting examples from two ends of the spectrum. The first one is, how can you get a website done for, well, actually lesser than 500? And the second one would be an example of how it'll be like if you hire a full-blown design agency. So stay tuned. One thing to note is that I'll be talking from an experience point of view, meaning if you're the person who wish to get the website done, what is the experience that you'll be going through as you go through the process? So the first one, you have a company and you need a website. So here are a couple of very simple steps you can take. Number one, get on squarespace.com, sign up for an account, pick a template you like, and fill in the blanks with your content. That's it. Launch it. And don't forget to link it to your domain. And you're good to go. And you probably spend about like $50 for the website, for the domain and the first month's payment of the platform. By the way, the only reason why I mentioned Squarespace is because I love their branding. And I think they've done a really good job with it. But any DIY website builder will work the same way. And that's it. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so how does it look like on the opposite side of the spectrum? And what I'm about to describe is a real process that I had a chance of going through when I was working in a previous job with a rather big MNC. Okay, first of all, you've got to figure out how to put together an RFP. If you put out a bad RFP, no agency is going to reply you. An RFP is a request for proposal. Sometimes it may be called ITQ, for invitation to quote. But whatever it is, you've got to do some work up front. And then you've got to call up all the shortlisted agencies and invite them to bid. And these agencies will probably send their account manager or salesperson to come and pitch to you. And that's where you got to observe their capabilities, the team, some of the work examples, and so on. And if you ask them for a diagnosis, which means how are they going to approach and solve this problem, they will be charging you for it. And you have to pay them for an upfront discovery session. Once you've selected your agency of choice, you've got to get your legal team involved to go through the contracts, NDAs, and other paperwork. And then you're officially engaged with your agency to get your website done. And all of that will probably take about 1 to 2 months. Now the fun starts. There will be a kickoff meeting, a formal one in their office downtown, and an informal one where they'll probably take you out for a nice dinner at like Marina Bay Sands or something to introduce the team and to get to know everybody involved. And from here on in, assuming that you are the project liaison on your company's site, you get to work with a project manager on timelines and deliverables, Gantt charts, and all those things, right? And on to building the site itself, the agency will go through an elaborate process to build the site, from strategy to information architecture, UX, design, functionality, and so on. Once the site is built, the next phase is the review phase, or what they would call the user acceptance testing. And if you're not the project sponsor, which is the decision maker, you got to be prepared to get sandwiched between your boss and the agency, because there might be irritating squabbles when it comes down to expectations and deliverables. And also be prepared to go through negotiations on extending the deadline, which means paying more money. But assuming all of those go well, you'll probably go live with a site that most of the stakeholders are kind of okay with. There must be a sweet spot somewhere in between the first example and the second one, right? I mean, if you go for a DIY website builder or maybe even a junior freelancer, you may not get the full potential of what your website can provide for you. On the other hand, a big agency level project might just be a bit too far-fetched for you. Okay, so here's our version. It's basically a lean and concise version of the agency approach. I mean, there's merit to a large part of the agency model, but there's also a huge inflated price, because obviously they've got to pay for their all those heads they have and all the nice dinners and that nice office in town. But for us, it's just 8 simple steps. So the first one is we'll do a free consultation, no obligations, and this is to discuss your objectives, your business, and how a website can be a key component in your sales funnel and the business as a whole. It's basically how it all works together. And if all goes well and you're interested to engage with us, There'll be a bit of admin, like proposals, contracts, and down payment, and then we kick off the project. We'll start with a discovery session that will only last a couple of hours, with clear goals outlined at the start and should be met towards the end of the session. And then we move on to user experience and information architecture. Basically, it's your sitemap and wireframes. Or in other words, how are we going to arrange the information and content so that your website is fully optimized and aligned with your audience. Following that, we'll do the design phase. And if this is where, if you have the brand guidelines, we'll work with those. If not, we'll create a visual language for you that you can actually apply throughout your brand touchpoints, not just the website. The next step is development. And this is where the magic happens. The transformation of the design, everything you've seen so far will come to life on an actual website. And it has to be built on good, efficient code base. This is important because it will contribute to a more delightful user experience. And this is also the phase where we put in the SEO so that Google will be able to pick you up when people search for your keywords. Next is UAT, which is about 1 to 2 weeks, where we do all kinds of fine-tuning and tweaking. So by the end of it, you will have a site that you're super proud of before we launch it. Next is on to go live and support. The team will run through a go live protocol, which will involve backups, emergency response, testing, and so on. By now, you can happily announce your site in sync with press releases or social media blasts or even email blasts. That's it. No fluff, no unnecessary steps. Every step is required to produce a high quality, effective, and professionally built web experience for your visitors, which should drive you a lot more awareness on your brand and eventually revenue for your business. So we've talked about how things look like on those two extreme sides, the super cheap and fast one and the extremely expensive, complex, politically complicated process of the big agency model. And I've shared with you very briefly what I think is a pretty decent process to get your website done properly. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Please like, comment, and share if this helps you in any way, and I'll see you next time.